Ben Brown, 7 no-hit innings, had 6 outs to go, 92 pitches, and he was pulled from the game. We're going to get into if that was the right call. Cubs do win the game last night. It took 10 innings, but they got the job done. And Luis Vazquez was a big reason why in just his second MLB game, he scored the go-ahead run. Shota Imanaga finally back on the mound tonight against Milwaukee. We'll see if he can get his stretch to continue at the home of the Brewers. That and more on the Cubs baseball channel. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell. That way you know whenever we're giving you some Cubs content and you can say, go Cubs, go, now that we finally have a win to talk about. Here's an invitation to our show. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs got a win last night against the Brewers. My name's Anthony Pasquale here with Mick Gillespie. I'm on Twitter at ant_Pasquale3, and you can find him at Broadcaster Mick. Mick, it wasn't pretty, although Ben Brown was. Cubs got the win 6-3 in 10 innings yesterday.
Yeah, I say we needed that one. I mean, we definitely needed that one. It's been excruciating, not scoring, the offense, the lack of offense, the bad at bats, the chasing a lot of sliders. And it took 10 innings to wake the bats up. And I'm hoping that this is the beginning of something that gets this team jump started. But, I've been talking about the importance of the young players. And I really feel like that line drive off of McGill, where Vazquez scored from second base and everyone was kind of standing there watching the ball because there was nothing you could do. McGill couldn't move his arm. Vazquez scored. He's pumping his fist. He's fired up, and it just really seemed to ignite the rest of the team. And so, man, I'm excited about that win, and I hope that it means something to this team because it's been a brutal stretch, man. I mean, the bats have been god-awful, and the bullpen blew it again.
Yeah, the bats have been like historically bad. The Cubs were looking originally to win 1-0, which would have been their third 1-0 win this calendar month. They've been held under 3 runs, I think 12 times out of the 20-something games this month. They've been shut out 4 times. It just hasn't been good offensively. What has been good is the starting pitching. And Justin Steele 2 nights ago gave you 7 scoreless on Memorial Day, and the Cubs blew that one. Ben Brown gave you 7 no-hit. You can't blow that game, and the Cubs almost did.
Look, the Cubs have stacked up on these guys in the minor leagues, like, guys that can pitch. They've got a bunch of them that they went and signed as free agents, and they're trying to figure out a way to have an insurance policy for this bullpen that just can't seem to get it right. And those guys are going to have to look at each other and figure out who's going to be there and who's not, because either it's going to be trades or these guys that they signed, but they're going to have to do something if the bullpen can't get the job done a little bit better than they have. But with that said, the starting pitching's been unbelievable. And Ben Brown was great. The 10 strikeouts, they only let him throw 7 innings. Craig Counsell said he had an angry fastball, right? And it was up a tick or 2 faster than he normally throws, like hitting like 98. But he just seemed to be comfortable and in control. I got to give Counsell credit for the way that he worked them in. Remember when he first got out there and it was like, hey, he came in as a reliever and then they've kind of like put him in spots, but he's a starter right now. I hope he stays in the rotation. It was a fantastic performance. It's like, no hits and 10 strikeouts. The only other guys that did that, Jake Arrieta and Big Z, and they both threw no hitters, because they let him stay in the game. And that kind of gets me to my next point, which I know that you guys are going to disagree with me, but I'm going to tell you 100 pitches doesn't mean your damn arm's falling off. We've set this bar. It's an imaginary bar. Okay. Baseball's been played for 100 and some years, and people can throw over 100 pitches. There's something about the game when someone's having a game like that, let them go and see how far they can get there. It's going to help the team. It's going to give you momentum. You get your name in the history books if you're able to throw a no-hitter. The history of the game matters. And I know analytics tell us that the guys could be hurt 3 or 4 starts down the road. Then maybe give them an extra day off. You got 7 guys that can start. You've won 0 games out of the last 5 and 3 out of the last 13. And you got a guy out there throwing, protecting that god-awful bullpen. Just get out of the way and let the guy pitch. And I know that you guys are going to be mad at me for saying that, but I don't care. I've watched baseball for 40 years. All of a sudden, this has just come out in the last 5-10 years where we've decided that 100 pitches, oh my God, we can't throw anymore because we threw 100 pitches. Maybe be a little bit. Maybe give him the Shota Imanaga treatment, okay? Back him up 3 days after he throws his no-hitter. They weren't hitting him, okay? They weren't.
Okay, so let me just put this out there. I agree with you. I would have sent him out there for the 8th.
How frustrating.
Well, I'd go and send him out for the 9th. But just to play devil's advocate and get both
sides.
sides.
You can. I know. A lot of people are gonna agree with what you're gonna say, by the way.
Here are the few things. First of all, we know what the analytics say about facing a lineup the 3rd time around. Second of all, because of the way that they get these guys ready in the minor leagues and they never even touch 100 pitches.
That's true.
Ben Brown gets unstretched out to go work out of the bullpen and then finally becomes a 1-inning guy, and then Hendricks blows up again, so you need him back in the rotation. I don't think he'd thrown more than 60 pitches in at least his last 3 or 4 outings. So 90 was a big step up. But to some degree, what's the difference between 102 and 92? And then once you're there, what's the difference between 112 and 102? So it sucks because you're never going to know. And if you put him out in the 8th, at least you would have known. If he gives up a hit, okay. If he gives a walk or 2 guys and he's really laboring to find the zone, okay. But because he ended on such a high note and still had the no-hitter going, it leaves a lot of question marks and I think a sour taste. But I think that the devil's advocate point is strategically, analytically, it makes sense to pull him. Also, having a rookie pitcher go 100, 110 in his 4th, 5th start doesn't make a ton of sense because he's never been there before. Justin Steele, he's working up to 100 pitches. He can go that every 5 days. I don't know if Ben Brown can. He's never had to in the minor leagues, probably not since college. And that's the big thing we've talked about with Skeens too. We've never seen him throw 100 pitches. How is that going to look?
Well, he did in college. I'm sure he did.
Right. And he
LSU,
threw 120 in college.
Yeah, right.
Bring him back to the minor leagues.
His arm didn't fall off.
Yeah, exactly.
I do this thing to my son all the time. I'll tell him that I was out on the boat and a shark ate off my arm, and I'll walk around like this, and then he'll be like, "No, your arm's right there, Dad," and then he'll come over and pull my arm out. Your arm's not going to fall off. Now, I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to disagree with myself. I'm just going to give you an argument that you could use. Is the difference between Ben Brown and the way that Justin Steele pitches is that Justin Steele doesn't need max effort to get out. He doesn't exert max effort, whereas Ben Brown was exerting max effort, which is what they're teaching these guys to do. And I also agree within the minor leagues, they didn't really let him pitch that much. But I'm going to tell you that the organization is letting these guys go deeper in the games now in the minor leagues, and I think that's a good thing. But I just would have loved to have seen it.
To go to 100 pitches.
Right, and that's what you should do. That's why the Brewers have these guys you've never heard of, and they're starting and they're winning. I see them in the minor leagues. That's how you develop pitching. You're not going to develop pitchers when they're throwing 60 pitches and 5 innings because you have to go through the lineup the 3rd time. And if you want to do it, maybe let them do it in the minor leagues first when a win and a loss doesn't matter. Everybody's going to go home, wake up the next day and forget about the game. In the big leagues, what if they'd have lost again today? It would have been 6 straight.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. You're up 1-0, right? And at some point, as much as it'd be cool to get into baseball history, you got to win the damn game.
But the bullpen's been terrible, though.
That's my point. That's the $1 million thing that I was just about to say. There's no way that you can conceivably say anybody out of that 8-man guy back there is going to give you a better chance to get 3 outs than the guy who's dealing right now.
That's right. That's right.
It's one thing if you were the 2016 Indians or Guardians now and you had Andrew Miller that was back there, or like if you're a team like the Brewers usually and you have Devin Williams and then Josh Hader, like, yeah, go to them. But you don't. You have Hector Neris who can't throw a strike, and he's the best option.
I know.
And I thought it showed
easily our best option.
Yeah,
what does that tell you about our options?
Some nice confidence out of Counsell to go straight back to Wesneski and Leiter after blowing yesterday's game. I thought that was a nice, like, we still believe in you. Go out there and get the outs. But it's interesting because it feels like Wesneski and Leiter pitch every day, and Neris hadn't pitched in a week. Tyson Miller, Luke Little, we haven't seen those guys in a while. So it was interesting. It sucks. I think Ben Brown could have gotten the last 6 outs and could have done it without being at 120, 125 pitches. But at the end of the day, they got the win. And when you're looking at no hitters, there's usually one play that maybe couldn't have been made, but this guy made the play. And it's like, that was the reason we had a no hitter. And when Bellinger robbed that homer in the 6th,
it was beautiful.
I was like, okay, this is going to be a no hitter. And saved a run at the time, the tying run. And that was a great play out there in center.
I would have liked to have seen it. I would have loved it for the baseball history aspect of it, for the confidence that it would have given the team, because I felt like it was the best chance to win the game 1-0. Anything can happen. I mean, think about Shota Imanaga. You know, he had a great game going, and then he gave up a 2-run homer. You know, but the Cubs came back and won that game. You were there. It's part of the game to go the distance, you know, and Fergie's arm didn't fall off. I saw him just last time I was at the game, you know, he was signing autographs with it. It seemed like it worked pretty good for him. So I just don't buy into okay, everybody, we got to put them in bubble wrap and make sure that they don't get hurt. You know, I want to see these guys go out there. And if there's a chance to make history like that, I want to see if they can do it. You know, at the end of the day, it's a game. You know, it is a game. Like, and part of the game, part of the fun of the game is doing things that haven't been done before, you know, or doing things that are hardly ever been done like that. You know, we talk about the guys that threw the no-hitter.
Yeah.
And if you throw a no-hitter for the Cubs, we're going to remember you for the rest of your life. You know, Ben Brown could get hurt next start, and we might forget about him down the line. I mean, he's got a very small body of work, you know, when you talk about the course of time, but he had a chance to throw a no-hitter, and we're never going to know what happened because he got taken out of the game because he hit that magical pitch count number. But I thought the home run rob by Belly was great. That was the moment where I think the fans were like, man, this guy's going to, you're right. Like, they're like, he's going to throw the no-hitter on us today.
Yeah. And
coming.
I will say too, you talked about the history of it. It'd be kind of funny too, because if my calculations are correct, if he went the distance today, then the last 3 no-hitters in Milwaukee would have all been thrown by Cubs pitchers. Ben Brown yesterday, if it happened, Alec Mills back in 2021, and then Carlos Zambrano against the Astros in Milwaukee. So that would have been the last 3 that have happened in Milwaukee, all thrown by Cubs. So that would have been a cool one-up on your division rival as well.
Yeah. Last time the Cubs, when Alec Mills threw that no-hitter, I worked an event for the Cubs, a digital, like an online event, and he was the guest. And it was like a week like the same week he threw the no-hitter, you know? So I'm like on there talking to him about, like, you know, I don't think it was supposed to be that, but then he threw the no-hitter. So we're like doing this question and answer for fans. And it was like, hey, man, what do you think about the no-hitter? Like, you know, and that came out of nowhere. But the point is that we're still talking about him right now.
Exactly.
Would Alec Mills be a name that you would ever bring up in any kind of Cub? Maybe like, what's that game we play on the
Immaculate Grid?
Immaculate Grid. Like, he might show up on the grid. You know?
Exactly.
Anyway, we won the game. So we scored so many runs they couldn't blow it in the bottom of the 10th.
A big offensive burst, which we haven't seen in a long time. Of course, it took until the 10th to get there, but the Cubs hung 5 runs in the top of the 10th. and they end up winning it 6-3. Now we've reached the time of our show where we talk about what's going on in the minor leagues, because we are hammering for so many of these guys playing in the minor leagues to play in the big leagues. We talked about Luis Vazquez, who finally got a little bit of game action yesterday for the big league squad. Jordan Wicks and Daniel Palencia had rehab assignments in AAA. Both of them pitched yesterday. Wicks got to start, and Palencia worked a clean inning out of the bullpen. Mick, what'd you see out of those two guys?
Yeah, look, first off, Wicks, 3 1/3 innings, gave up a home run, but that was it. A walk and 5 strikeouts. You know, he had the left forearm strain, which is something that you have to be very, very careful with, because that could turn into Tommy John or a bunch of other different things if you let it go. So the Cubs shut him down, and he's slowly kind of working back. He's a weapon for the Cubs. He's an important piece. I don't know what he's going to do when he returns. I don't know if he's going to be a starter or a reliever, which is something that you mentioned right early. You said, hey, this guy might be in the bullpen. He might be in the bullpen, and it just may be that way because maybe you can manage his workload a little different. You also could use a left-hander that could come in and get some outs. But this was a good sign. Now, the word on him is they let him pitch. They're going to sit back, rest him, be very cautious. He's going to throw at least another minor league game, then see what happens. So he's not on the fast track back. But Daniel Palencia, on the other hand, could be. He came in throwing 101 miles an hour, struck out 3 batters, gave up a hit and a walk, but no runs. The thing I can't stand about Palencia, 25 innings and 15 strikes in 1 inning, or 25 pitches and 15 strikes in 1 inning, right? He's just got to be more efficient, and that's always been his issue in the big leagues. And it has nothing to do with being injured. It's him being able to control, hey, let's get a couple pitch to contact outs. You don't have to have a 7-8 pitch at bat with every batter. And his put away pitch is the thing that's holding him back from being someone that's dominant in the game. But we could certainly use him back and healthy again. And I think he's really close.
Yeah, we're seeing Jeremiah Estrada, who a lot of Cubs fans remember, now emerging as one of the best relievers in baseball on the Padres. And Daniel Palencia is one of those guys that has the stuff that, if it doesn't work out in Chicago, he's going to become an all-star closer somewhere. Like, he's just got that type of stuff. The fastball is great. You mentioned needs to work on that second pitch just a little bit more to put hitters away. But I think Palencia is close, obviously, to coming back to the big leagues, but also close to being like a very reliable piece in that bullpen. And that's something that I think the Cubs could surely use, is that bullpen's been kind of a weak link, especially as of late. But the Cubs take on the Brewers again tonight at 6:40 Central. We get our favorite guy back on the mound, Shota Imanaga, dealing for the Cubs, 5-0 on the season with a .84 ERA. Let me say that again, a .84 ERA. It's almost June. He's been unbelievable against Bryce Wilson, who's 3-1 with a 2.86 ERA. Another division game, and it seems like the Cubs and Brewers just cannot play a normal baseball game.
Yeah, no, I know. They're contested. There's a fire there now. The Cubs took their manager, Craig Counsell, who basically is like, the grass is greener in Chicago than it is in Milwaukee.
No,
and they hate that.
It is greener in Chicago.
Yeah, right. It's not the grass. It's the cash. It's greener. Yeah. But, obviously there's some hard feelings there with that. He's been great, man. Like Fernando Valenzuela, like the mania, Shotamania. That's out there. A shout out to Andrew Callahan for the email. Man, you guys reaching out in the comment section and emailing me and watching the shows and stuff and talking to me about all these guys, getting into these topics. Man, I love that part of this whole thing. He's been the biggest story on the team this year, arguably the biggest story in baseball. He had the extra 3 days. I think they were worried about just a tick in velocity that was down. He's throwing a lot more frequently than he did in Japan. Hasn't really affected his success. but it was a tough thing to do, and it's the same tough decision that you make when you pull a guy out throwing a no-hitter, right? It's an abundance of caution.
Yeah.
But the Shota one to me makes more sense than the Brown one to me. And the reason why is that you throw on 6 days rest there, right? Isn't it? You throw every 6 days. I guess that gives you 5 days rest. Whatever. He hasn't done that, and it's because of circumstances. But now starting pitching hasn't stalled because he hasn't been in there. So I'm excited about it. This is what Cubs baseball 2024 is all about. Getting the Shotamania ready.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. Let's see what the Brewers do against them. Let's see if we can get another no-hitter, and we'll pull them out after 7.
The Cubs, I believe the stat is 34 2/3 innings pitched scoreless against the Brewers this season. Brown
crazy.
and Steele have combined for 14 already in this series. And in the series back in early May, when the Cubs took 2 out of 3 at Wrigley, the Cubs went 20 innings scoreless. I think that was Assad, Tyone, and Wesneski in that series. So you've got 5 different guys, but now they get to see Shota, and he's the best of the best. We can see how long that scoreless inning streak against the Brewers from the starting pitching continues. But for those of you guys watching, jump in the comment section and answer these 2 questions for us. How would you have handled Ben Brown after 7 no-hit innings? And what are you going to do with Jordan Wicks when he comes back? Those are the 2 big things. I'm leaning bullpen right now because the 2 guys that you could potentially take out of the rotation are Assad and Brown, and no way you can do that.
No, I'm with you. I can't wait to see what everyone says. If you take Assad out of the rotation, I'm throwing this microphone at you. Don't touch my guy. Leave him alone. Okay. I know he gave up a couple of home runs to Paul Goldschmidt, but that's happened to a lot of people over the years, right? Leave him alone. And after Ben Brown, you're going to take a guy out that just was unhittable.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see. I don't know. I'm excited though. I'm glad that honestly, I'm just glad that Wicks is okay, because you worry about those forearm injuries.
Absolutely. Well, enjoy Shota tonight, everybody. I know Mick and I certainly will, and we'll be back tomorrow to break down, hopefully, a Cubs W over the Brewers. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to jump in that comment section, like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the stuff that we tell you to do, because we love the Cubs and you love the Cubs. And that's a good recipe for success. We'll talk to you tomorrow.